here are 5 useful tips for building in Raft. Hi friends, and welcome back to Raft. Today we're going to be talking about some useful building tips for our favorite floating simulator. Whether you want to optimize your build or bring some life to your raft, there's bound to be something here for you. These range from practical tips to some more aesthetically oriented ones, but I found all of them useful in improving my own raft experience. Also, I definitely took some inspiration from the Raft Reddit page for this video, so be sure to pay it a visit if you're in need of that same building inspiration. But without further ado, let's dive into 5 useful tips for building in Raft. Alright, here we are in our demonstration world, so let's get started with some pillar work. I personally believe that the best looking walls in Raft are actually 1.5 walls tall, and it makes for a more spacious floor on your raft rather than just kind of the barely above your head. It's kind of like having a 2-block tall ceiling in Minecraft in my opinion. 3 always looks a tiny bit better. But of course there's a few different ways to achieve this, and if you're familiar with Raft, you know that there's a few base mechanics surrounding pillars. So typically when you build a pillar, you can only build flooring in the immediate vicinity of said pillar. So you can only build it in this direct circle around it, you can't build outside of it, and if you were to destroy this pillar, it all collapses, which in itself is a pretty standard game mechanic. But what if you want this kind of more spacious look? Again, I prefer mine to be 1.5 tall rather than just 1 tall, so instead what we can do here is we can take these upside down triangles and use them as additional supports. So we can just kind of slap them all around our upper half pillar, and it also hides that half pillar so you don't have to see it. And then we can actually build a lot farther out using this, because we can go all the way around. The one disadvantage is that this is a circle as opposed to a square, so you do need to offset them a little bit. Whoops. But you can still offset them and achieve a lot more spacious of a look than having a pillar every 2 squares. And I think that looks a little better. But if you want even more space, like over here, you have the option to just make floating floors with no pillars. So, as I showed you already, if you destroy the pillar, typically things go away. But for some reason, if you use triangle floors, and now I can destroy this pillar, and it floats. Yeah, I don't know why either, it just kind of works. So if you want this kind of more spacious looking thing and you don't want to have any pillars whatsoever, this is a great option for you. If you're worried that might be patched someday in the future, because it could be, you know, this is another great viable option. Moving on to tip 2, we've got a few different ways to go up your raft. So, of course, you could make a traditional ladder going straight up, or you could make a traditional staircase going also straight up, but those are boring. So instead, we're going to teach you something a little more practical. Again, because I prefer my ceilings to be 1.5 tall, that invites a little more creativity into the mix. So for the ladder, instead of just having a massive hole in the floor, we can just have a quarter or a half of a square missing because of that same triangle square hack that we talked about earlier. So this is actually still fully functional and everything, but it leaves less of a massive gap in your floor to worry about. The stairs are also relatively traditional in the fact that they go all the way up, but for some reason the edges of the stairs don't actually quite fill out the entirety of one square, so I find it looks a lot better if you put these half walls and other triangles going the other direction down the sides, and this lines up nicely and now you've got a full wall. Also, it gives you like a little storage closet underneath, so you can have a Harry Potter room if you really want one, I guess. Also, anything placed at about half wall height is a viable jumping surface, so you could just make your own staircase out of whatever you want, and it will take up as little or as much space as you want. But this is another way that you can make a staircase that is still perfectly functional, but takes up very little floor space if that's something you want. So moving right along, we're going to talk about how to optimize your agricultural setup. So normally in a world, you've got your sprinkler, which waters a 3x3 square of agricultural lands, in this case it's grass plots. And we can do this with a little automatic water purifier setup. These are great, they're super optimized, you don't have to touch them. Of course this is late game, but the basic principle still applies, using your traditional water purifiers and just filling up the sprinkler yourself. Anyways, so you've got this traditional layout. Let's see how much stuff we can fit into it. Of course, you've got your kind of more basic layout. This is with crops, of course, and you want it to be accessible, so you can just slap crops everywhere, but it gets kind of annoying to walk all around them. So this is what you would look like if you're farming crops, but we can certainly take it up a level. For this part, we actually need to raise up our sprinkler half of an area, but as you can see, this is all packed full of crops, and all of them are watered by this singular sprinkler. So you don't have to worry about spreading out a whole ton of them. Technically, you could even fill this entire second area with crops, but walking is kind of nice, so I left that bit open. This again is fully optimized, so I of course have my 2 water purifiers back here and my sprinkler doing all the work. But if I were to harvest these ones right out here and plant another one, that sprinkler will kick in soon enough, and there it goes. It's already fully watered all the way out here. Which is kind of amazing if you think about it. There's all of these crop plots, and you can fit them all in this tiny, tiny little area. I know that I've been prone to using the building utilities mod in the past, but this is all entirely vanilla. It just requires a lot of precise placement, but it is fully doable. If this is what your storage system looks like, I gotta say I'm a little disappointed in you, but that means that we've got a lot to talk about and a lot of ways that you could improve. So this is obviously your standard I just started playing Raft and I have no clue what I'm doing setup, where you just slap them in a line and hope for the best. At least that's what I did when I started playing Raft. But you can actually do a lot of things with chests, specifically wall mounting them. For some reason, again I'm not entirely certain why, the chests that are placed on the floor actually are slightly larger in size than any that are wall mounted, so it'll always look slightly off center. But that's not your fault, that's just something in the game, I guess. That you can stack up to 4 on a singular wall. Of course, if you have the 1.5 walls, it can go higher, but it gets a little harder to access and all that fun stuff. So this is a lot better and more efficient than just laying them out by the side. And you can take it to the next level by doing some kind of weird hallway like this. So imagine if I had duplicated this on the other side, we could fit 16 times the amount of chests in the same volume as if we had just done this, and a gazillion times the amount of chests that you could fit here if we had done that. So, again, it looks slightly wonky on the bottom one because these ones are just flat out bigger. You can see it kind of here on the side where it's the one on top is actually slightly smaller in all directions. I don't know why, that's just part of the game, don't blame me. But there's also other options. Again, if you're more aesthetically inclined, this might be a great option for you because, let's face it, this just looks nice. That's about it. You got 5 on the bottom, 4 on top, it's symmetrical, it's beautiful. You can slap everything you need in here, unless you're a hoarder like me and need about 15 of these. But, it looks nice. It's good to go. But if you're really into compacting everything down, here's what you need. In this, it's all about taking actually some decoration items, specifically the large table, which you can shockingly place on walls, and you can fit 3 chests along it, and then you can put another table directly on top. So you can just really condense all of this down and fit 12 chests in about the same area as our 8 from over there. So that's a 33% increase, which, is kind of a big deal if you're trying to optimize your raft and squeeze as much out of a little space as possible. So that's pretty cool. And finally, we reached the bit of the video that I really needed that help from the Reddit for, which is decoration. This is 100% not my strong suit, so this build is heavily inspired by one you can find on the Reddit by Dark Knight 200007, which I hope that's the right number of zeros. But anyways, you can see that this is a fantastic kitchen build, and it comes down to 2 major factors, one of which I'll do in front of you. The first one is clutter. Simply adding items to your build makes it come alive. We've got a little cupboard over here with all your mugs and all your plates, and maybe even a bit of food storage. They somehow magically made something that looked like a stove, and I couldn't quite replicate it, because honestly I have no clue how to do that. But in general, this feels so much more alive than just having a random grill in the middle of a room. This feels like a kitchen that you would find in a fancy house, and I don't know how they did it, but it's ridiculously cool. The second one is what I'm going to attempt to replicate, which, no promises, but somehow people have figured out how to make massive chandeliers using these bad boys. And they do it by putting them all in a big circle, and I am so envious of anyone who could come up with ideas like this. Couldn't be me. But yeah, I just think that's ridiculously cool. It looks amazing. Again, it feels so much more alive. But anyways, that does it for my 5 useful building tips to improve your raft world. I hope one or maybe even all of these are helpful to you. I know that I definitely needed some help when I started out, and I don't have the best eye for building, so maybe these can give you a little bit of a head start. Let me know which tip was your favorite down below, and be sure to share any additional tips that you may have for other players. But I think that's it from me for now, so I hope you enjoyed. Please consider leaving a like if you did, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I hope to see you all again soon, but until then, have a great day.